It's around about 4 a.m., which is about the sort of time I start my day, and it's just a point that I'm reflecting on the mess that is going around the world at the moment. Racism is real. For those of us who went to the United Kingdom in the 60s, it was a culture shock, not because racism was prevalent, but just prejudices, which then, in many ways, developed into forms of racism, I guess. And then society took positions. And it's not for me to give a historical account of what happened during the period. Everybody knows. I think everybody has their own individual situations. And I thank God for life, because the very nature of my character is that if I was confronted with some of the things that we've seen happen to George Floyd and to many, many, many others, I would not be here today, because I would have reacted, as I always have. As a 6-year-old kid going into primary school, preparatory school as it's called in the United Kingdom, as the only black boy in the school, I couldn't understand when a little kid pushed ahead of me in the queue in the morning and shouted an obscenity based upon my color. And so I did what I did best. I just knocked him off the step and pounded him into the ground. And I've always fought for what I believe was right. And it has followed me throughout my life, that I've established a no-nonsense approach where I realize that society is not ready to stand up for me, but I will certainly stand up for myself and stand up for those around me who are being oppressed or being picked on, whether they be black, whether they be white, whether they be Muslim, whether they be gay, whether they be whatever it may be. You have to stand up. Because the thing is that when you don't, one day it'll come, it'll become your turn. There was a time when I was banned by British Airways, I remember, for a year or 2 years, for arriving at the airport, and somebody who should have known better, working for British Airways Airport Authority, not for British Airways, called me a big fucking black bastard, forgive my French, as I run to catch a flight, and he was blocking the way, and I shouted, "Excuse me," and it was heard by my daughter and a friend, and I turned around and I asked him what the hell he thought he was saying when it was repeated to me. And he said it and basically said, like, so. So I remember I grabbed him by his lapels of his trousers, looked of his jacket, and looked at his name in the tag, and clipped his jaw. And I then had armed police all around me within 5-10 minutes. Didn't ask me, went to him, and then he admitted what he had said and what he had done, and the police said, "Well, just calm down, mate. We do understand, but calm down." And then somebody from British Airways came later and said, "You can't fly us anymore." And I said, "As though you're the only airline to fly to my part of the world." And I promptly caught a KLM flight and came back, and tickets at 60% of the price, and moved them, my companies, my friends, and the rest there for the next couple of years. It's a funny old world. We all have experiences, and how we react to the experiences is key. There are a group who believe just be passive and be polite because that's what society wants. And when you raise your voice, then you're seen as some sort of a negative figure. But I've had many, but now at the age of 60 odd, I have to reflect and say that I've not had it as bad as many others have. And for that, I thank God. I would have reacted in many cases and been shot or tasered or, taken down, or having such belief in my own ability, I would certainly have been not here today, because I'd have taken this 20-stone frame of mine and the extreme madness that I can ignite if necessary to demand my right, my equity, my parity with them as citizens of the world. I'm just glad in my days of playing rugby, and I have loved playing rugby from the time I was young, that I never experienced it on the field. I've experienced it in the crowd a couple of times. The first was, I would not call it racism. playing junior rugby in the United Kingdom and being bundled off the pitch. And I think somebody put a little half-quarter pint of beer across on me and said, "Come on, you big black bastard, get back on the pitch." I didn't view that as racism at the time, you know. But having played in Southern Africa and had some members of the crowd shout out, "You kafir, go home, you kafir," and being a little bit confused by it, in the same way as I had on auction floors in Southerton in Zimbabwe, where, you know, the white farmers would pass comments as I'd walk past, but I'd always laugh. I guess the English in me would laugh at their stupidity as they would crack some of the most hideous of jokes, you know. There was one day when I was walking where big guy, if I'm 6'4", he was 6'5", 6'6". If I'm 20 stone, he must have been about 23 stone with his long socks. And then he said to his friend, "Hey, Boot, let me tell you this joke." I guess it was from my hearing, you know. And what was it? It was, I forget. It was something quite horrendous to do with blind people and smelling and black people. But anyway, as soon as I heard, I just burst out laughing. I removed the color from it, and I was laughing at them, and they were wondering why I was laughing instead of being totally mad. So these things do happen, and they have happened. But I'm so glad that in the world of rugby in which I'm a part of, that it hasn't been at the forefront of what we're being about. When I see what happens in football, when I see what happens right across from the Balotellis to the young maestro at Manchester City, and incidents that have happened continuously in Spain and in Italy and England and around the world to people who are bringing entertainment. I haven't had it with in the world of rugby. And there's never been the question of should a team walk on or should a team walk off, because in the middle of the mix, your teammate is your best friend, believe me, and he stands up. So if somebody misbehaves, you will see that there will be a number 2 or a number 9, the normal troublemakers will rally the call, and there'll be an enforcer on the pitch, and you'll all join. And it's important that the referees, well, these days rugby's not what rugby was, is it? Cameras, third eyes, linesmen as additional referees, they pick up all the things that the referee misses. In my day, there was just a referee and 2 linesmen who were trolling up and down the pitch and no cameras. So somebody would get somebody back, you know, and equity would be restored and respect would be restored. We have to come back together. The good old days will not return. The bad days in the middle are here to stay and have become institutionalized. But all I say to my friends, and I have friends from all sides, those of them who know me really well will understand that I'm a global being, is that we must stand up for one another. We really must. It's no good pretending as though it doesn't happen. I've watched as the TV screens and I've seen what has happened. I've had tears in my eyes at 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And I've seen the global reach for Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, that have been heartening, and that people are asking for change. And we pray that it won't just come and go, and that the same old badness will continue. We hope that there will be real change that will bring about a change in attitude. People will not believe that it is their right and they're licensed to affect, to kill, to harm, to maim because they wear the uniform. And that the system and the judges and the people will just assume because of your age or your religion or the color of your skin or your sex that you're automatically guilty. It mustn't be like that. I guess that's one of the reasons that I really, really love rugby. That you can go to Twickers, you can come here to Elmina in Ghana, you can be at Ellis Park, and the shouting. And I'm not leaving out Parc des Princes and other great stadiums around the world, but the screaming and the shouting will be for your people. And you sing, you raise your voice to express your emotion as opposed to referring to the color of a skin or the size of somebody's gut. understand it there, so that at the end of it, you do what rugby people do best. You head to a bar or to a restaurant, families enjoying, and you talk about that. Old timers show their war wounds. The young ones run away because they've seen the war wounds too many times. But seriously, maybe the impetus for change is rugby rather than the rest. We know a lot of our administrators are just administrators, but they are the real rugby people, and they are the ones that really matter. And the supporters that go to the stadium when it's raining, it's snowing, it's hailing. I'm on the African continent now, so the sun is just there at 30, 40 degrees. It's all the same. It's entertainment. There's a physicality. There's a mismatch. They're the referees. There's that ball that bounces where you don't expect it to. And there are skills that come into play because you train many times a day, continuously, and your body just reacts to the opportunity. Rugby is life. And surely, that must be one of the ways to conquer this terrible pandemic that is racism.